Hello students, and welcome to the second video of our three-part series on the TOEFL iBT listening section. In today's video, we're going to be discussing the 4 question format types and the 8 types of questions found in the listening section. Let's get started. Here's a list of the 4 question format types. We have multiple choice questions with a single correct answer, multiple choice questions with multiple correct answers, sequencing questions, and questions where you complete a table. Firstly, we have multiple choice questions with a single correct answer. These are the traditional multiple choice question. You're given a question with 4 answer choices, and only one of those answer choices is correct. Next, we have multiple choice questions with multiple correct answers. You're given a question with up to 5 answer choices, and there could be 2 or 3 correct answers. But don't worry, because on the test, the question's directions will always inform you of how many answers you need to select if there's more than one answer. After that, we have sequencing questions, where you have to put events or the steps in a process in the correct order. With these questions, you'll drag and drop information from one area of the screen to another. Lastly, we have questions where you complete a table, where you have to match information to its correct category or list correct information by placing check marks in the table. Before we dive into the 8 question types, it's important to remember that on the test, you're only allowed to listen to a passage once. Furthermore, you can't view the questions before listening to a passage. That means it's extremely important that you take detailed notes for each passage, because a lot of information can be covered in a 3-minute conversation or especially in a 5-minute academic lecture. When you're working on the set of questions after a listening passage, only one of the questions from a set will provide a short audio clip from the passage for you to listen to before answering the question. The other 4 or 5 questions will not play a short audio clip from the passage, which means you'll be relying on your notes and memory to answer those questions. Let me further illustrate. First, you'll listen to the recording. Then you'll be given the set of questions for that passage. Of those questions, one of them, and only one of them, will provide a short clip from the listening passage before you're supposed to answer the question. All of the other questions in that set will not have a short clip for you to listen to before answering each question, which means you'll be relying on your notes and memory to answer those questions. Now let's move on to the 8 types of questions that you'll find in the listening section. We have detail, gist purpose, gist content, understanding the speaker's attitude, understanding the function of what is said, inferences, understanding organization, and connecting content. Starting with detail questions, let's look at an example. It reads, according to the passage, what were some key architectural challenges during the early Greek period? And then you have your 4 answer choices. Now don't worry, I don't expect you to be able to answer this question because obviously you haven't listened to the 5-minute lecture on ancient Greek architecture. For the purposes of this video, as we go through each of the 8 question types, I'm going to show you an example of each, just so you can start to become familiar with all the question types. If you want more thorough practice with the listening section, stay tuned for future videos where I'll be posting listening section practice tests. Furthermore, while we're going over each example question, I encourage you to pause the video and read through the answers. This will give you a better understanding of each question type. Okay, back to detailed questions. They are very straightforward and focus on key points rather than minor details. These questions ask about facts, events, steps, or descriptions provided in the listening passage. If you'd like to receive a free PDF of today's lesson, which includes all of the important information from this video, and a practice task for the listening section of the TOEFL iBT, which includes a 5-minute academic lecture that you can listen to, followed by 6 multiple choice questions. And the PDF will also include additional resources to help prepare you for the TOEFL iBT. Simply click on the link in the description below. After entering your email, you'll immediately receive a link to download the PDF of today's lesson. Next, let's look at gist purpose questions. Here's an example. It reads, why does the student visit the professor? These questions ask why a speaker makes a specific statement or why a particular part of the conversation or lecture is included. They require you to understand not just what was said, but the reason or intent behind it. Next, let's look at an example of a gist content question. The question reads, what is the conversation about? Gist content questions focus on asking to identify the general topic or main idea of the listening passage. They require you to generalize or synthesize information from what you hear. Now, let's look at an example of an understanding the speaker's attitude question. It reads, what is the professor's attitude toward recycling? These questions test whether you understand a speaker's attitude or opinion. This could be related to their feelings expressed, their likes or dislikes, or the reason for their point of view. Next, let's look at an example of an understanding the function of what is said question. You should note that this is one of the question types where you might be given a short audio clip to listen to before answering the question. Let's play the audio clip.
Let me tell you a quick story about a worker named Samuel who lived in Manchester during this period. Samuel's life shows just how drastically people's daily routines were changed by new factory systems.
These questions test your ability to interpret the purpose or function of specific statements within the context of a conversation or lecture. These questions are subtle and require you to understand the speaker's intent beyond the literal meaning of the words. Now let's move on to an example of an inference question. You should note that this is another question type where you might be given a short audio clip to listen to before answering the question. Let's play the audio clip.
Well, I understand the assignment now, but with all the other projects due next week, it's going to be challenging to get it done on time.
The question reads, what does the student imply when she says, it's going to be challenging to get it done on time? Inference questions require you to understand information that is not directly stated but can be logically concluded from the speaker's words, tone, or context. These questions evaluate your ability to read between the lines and understand implications based on clues provided in the conversation or lecture. Are you taking the TOEFL iBT soon? Then I invite you to take our course. Unlock the TOEFL iBT Mastering the Test online preparation course. It's a fully online, self-paced course that comprehensively prepares you for every section of the TOEFL iBT. It has engaging readings, expert video lessons, interactive quizzes, proven strategies, hundreds of practice questions, 2 full-length online practice tests, and individualized feedback. With this course, you'll have everything you need to ace the TOEFL iBT. For more information, the link to the course page is in the description below. Next is an example of an understanding organization question. The question reads, how does the professor organize the information he presented to the class? These questions focus on how the speaker organizes their ideas, introduces topics, transitions between points, or connects different pieces of information. And lastly, we have connecting content questions. This is the only question type where you might be required to complete a table or sequence information. Now, there are 3 types of tables that you may encounter in a connecting content question. With the first type, you'll be required to match information under correct categories. With the second, you'll have to sequence an order of events, or a process, by dragging and dropping answers to place them in the correct order. And in the third type, you'll be simply placing check marks to identify correct information. While there are a few other types of connecting content questions, there's no need to go over them because they just mimic the other question types that we've already covered in this video. Connecting content questions test your ability to understand how different ideas relate to each other within a lecture or conversation. These questions evaluate your comprehension of the relationships, connections, or comparisons between concepts discussed. I hope this breakdown of the 4 question format types and 8 types of questions in the listening section has given you a solid understanding of what to expect and how to approach each question. Remember, listening carefully and identifying the main ideas, details, speaker's attitude, and organization of information will help you tackle these questions confidently. Try to practice with a variety of topics and with different accents, as the listening section will have English speakers from various parts of the world. Stay tuned for our third video in our three-part series on the listening section, which will focus on practical strategies for tackling the TOEFL iBT listening section. Until next time, students, keep exploring, keep learning, and let the world be your classroom.